What is up, guys? My name is Matt aka Trillions, and welcome to another episode of Watcha Playin for framerate.com. This time we'll be talking about a game called Metal Reaper. It's a free-to-play top-down shooter published by JCplanet, which is currently in a limited public beta phase. Think of it kind of like Dead Nation meets Diablo. We'll spend a few minutes showing you the game and some of what it has to offer, so let's jump right on in.
freemmostation.com.
Metal Reaper, as I already stated, is a top-down shooter with RPG elements. After I got into the game, I was actually a bit disappointed in the way it looks. The videos I had seen made the game look much more attractive, but after actually playing it, I feel like the game was kinda stuck in the early PS2 era. Graphics don't necessarily make a game good or bad though. However, on top of the already rigid textures, it also had some extremely slow loading times and some hilariously bad English translations. There's also a massive frame rate drop in the first town after leaving the tutorial, but I'm willing to give it a shot though, so perhaps the gameplay will make up for these few faults. There's an arsenal of weapons that you can obtain, including rifles, handguns, rocket launchers, shotguns, and even disposable weapons specific to certain instances or parts of the game. You move around with WASD or point and click style with the right mouse button. You aim and shoot with the mouse and left mouse buttons respectively. I had issues shooting since the game tends to auto assist when you shoot. And it's not very subtle either. When your mouse pointer is close to an enemy, your character will automatically lock onto it. You will occasionally miss, and feel like you basically have no control over it since your character doesn't shoot where your mouse pointer is aimed at until the enemy or target is destroyed. Luckily though, after messing around with some settings, it turns out you can disable the aim assist. It's automatically enabled when you first get into the game, so I'd recommend turning it off. Something else Metal Reaper seems to suffer from is server lag. There's definitely a delay between the time a bullet hits the target and when the target actually takes damage. There's even occasional input lag where I'd hit the fire button and my character would basically take a second or two to actually fire the weapon. For a game that's soon to be released to the public, it's riddled with things like this that honestly make it not that great of an experience. There were some moments of hilarity though, like when I'd use the handgun to shoot an enemy, and that enemy would basically fly away like it had been blown away by a rocket launcher. It had to be some kind of glitch, but it was pretty entertaining. Aside from the lag and input problems, the game also has some not so great AI. Enemies to me didn't pose any threat, even in massive numbers. You could almost run through the entire game with nothing but a handgun and still come out on top. Now I will say that I only got to about level 10, but that entire time I never died once, and enemies never seemed to be a threat. Even bosses didn't pose that much of a threat, albeit they were a bit harder to kill, but their attack intervals were few and far between. Enemies were more like a mild inconvenience that continuously ate my ammunition. So with so many negatives, what does the game actually have going for it? One of those things is the music. Any time that you have a good soundtrack in the game, it almost instantly makes it 10 times better. And I really like the music in this game. The fact that the music would change to a battle theme anytime you were fighting off enemies was a plus. Although I think the music only changes when you fire your weapon, as opposed to actually fighting an enemy. The game also doesn't let you get lost. While doing a quest, there's a trail of green floating arrows pointing you in the right direction. If you do happen to get lost or lose the arrow trail though, there's also an arrow pointer next to your quest log, which will tell you the general direction of your next goal. Instances were another thing I really enjoyed, mostly because I didn't have other random players around trying to take my kills or loot. Anytime you can get your hands on a flamethrower and slaughter massive amounts of non-threatening zombies in peace, I'd say it's a win. Honestly, Metal Reaper has a great concept behind it. The gameplay would be more fun if the faults I listed were fixed and the AI difficulty was increased. There's more to the game than what I've shown here in this video because I'm limited to what I can do for a first impression. I do hope you enjoyed this video though. Don't forget to like and subscribe to freemmostation.com, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.